Reading from your 261st public domain periodical since February 2023. I know I look wrecked, but it's been a long day and it's nearing midnight. Yes, I will be hated for how I've chosen to use my time, for being so devoted to what it takes to make truth rhyme. Those who don't see the labor in it or the sacrifice it takes to willingly go without to work for work that no one compensates, using my resources to put faith in my word, that the love I put within it is worthy to be heard, but not forced down anyone's throat or with the cost of another's loss. It is my gratitude for life that keeps its love my boss. Humbly planting what I know will grow when all the conditions are right for the public to take an interest in what a humble poet had to write. Yes, I will be hated for the heaven I've enjoyed when I chose to suck the marrow from life instead of being more lucratively employed. I reckon that's where I've been greedy, gathering that type of gold, caring less about my poverty than the treasure different perspectives hold. To believe in a living force and seek to be its friend with evidence along the way that such faith should never end. One can't betray that feeling that knows its depth is real, palpable in real time, when our obedience is the real deal. Faith without works is dead, and behavior proves our love. Are we partial in that realm, or do we conduit what's above? Are we genuine in our sincerity to let it guide our steps? Are we divine within that purpose, that such will in our hearts be kept? I've been pummeled for love in the past. Oh, yes, I have. Even shot through the pelvis and side by those who thought that arrogance was a preferable horse to ride. With what is being spoken by the 47th and his cabinet, ego directs the path as evil delights who dabs in it. The golden rule is not a joke, but it's optional with free will. The instructions we adhere to prove whose servitude we fill. Even that, though, is simplistic and reduces reality to what's perceived, as motives can never be known by an observer assuming what's known or believed, which are significant contributing factors to what we do and say, which require the field of empathy if understanding is to light our way. Else reactions are irrelevant, born on what's not true, even if it sounds convincing as an insight bright and new. Love is a conductive material, conducive material, by which an ultrasound can see, making connection between searcher and seen penetrate for the best quality. Without it, there is too much guessing, trying to fill those gaps where the images aren't clear because of that connection's lapse. When the jelly isn't present for the invisible to be felt by the electromagnetic energy that needs contact for barriers to melt, rather become unobscuring as the signal stays strong and smooth, as the technician moves the wand to see how the insides move. Empathy is that jelly, that conductive material that lets us feel, making more of what another means and who they are more real. Without it, it's fabrication, like a keyword search, that's all, that comes back with the irrelevant answers because the prompt was too narrow and small. Even if the search engine repeats the scan, it will never know what you need if it only has that tiny parcel of information from which to read. Man, I know I'm ugly, but that's how it goes. Our programming might allow this, convenient for the haste of our day, to accept erroneous assumptions that to keep things moving seems okay. But just like any code is corrupted when it's wrong, lack of empathy and understanding is like taking instruments from a song. It might pass as acceptable, even pleasant to the ear, but without the entire band, it's a lesser version that we hear. The same applies to each other in the facets of the soul, when interactions are such a fraction of ours and another's whole. The occupational reality of paramedics on the job is seeing what such assumptions while driving can really rob. That assumption the road was clear after only a little glance, and based on experience in the past that the coast is clear, take that chance, only to learn too late that their gamble was an error, as that which they didn't see, though it was there, becomes their terror. Lights out. The timing of that. The vehicle collisions I've responded to were never a motorist's choice. To have their bones broken within, or their clothing by their own blood moist. But that didn't stop it from happening, though, of course, each crash was unique. But the similarity of inattention blindness is the phenomenon of which I speak. Likewise, in society, like lemmings or a herd off a cliff, when the current is too strong for an individual to question if. We have faith in our leaders that their vision is correct, so all the perils and the perks along the way they can detect. When a captain displays fake vision and speaks what is not true, the same portends that destiny will not be a friend of the crew. Stubbornness will deny this, though, while extolling the image they make, that fabrication from imagination for which their empathy did trade. Self-preservation can be deceptive, though, which is why the oracles of religion... Self-preservation can be deceptive, though, when ego is in control, which is why the oracles of religion say our past selves we shouldn't hold. As we drink from a living fountain where we grow from what we learn, instead of defending what's immature and with immaturity burn. Humility is essential for our path to be correct, else arrogance will bend the light to what ego's threat can detect. It is difficult to not be guilty of this, as we are all learning as we go, with only our experience and stories to teach us what we know, both of which will always be limited depending on where we are. Unique is every perspective of eyes on a globe, both near and, yes, far. Eloquence can be a foreign language within one's native language. Eloquence can be a foreign language within one's native tongue, when one never heard such description of how things are said and done. If attention lacks experience, or even worse, it doesn't care, such as when the uncaring make things up just out of thin air, using only their intention and a sprinkling of facts, so what's heading toward the brain looks like something other than an axe. Of course, that's metaphorical. We haven't reached that yet. But when people are reduced to what they are not, the fruit of idolatry is what we get. Such horror is preventable, but when respect only goes one way, what it's like for the victims is not what a predator thinks of its prey. We're getting to the end. 2/3 of there. The effort to comprehend simply doesn't exist, eclipsed by the desire to ensure an opportunity not missed. If the treasure were understanding, then for that they would take the time, but such would interfere with what makes it cool to commit crime. It's not crime when it is justified, says the ever-changing side, when one starts out as true but descends within their pride, or rather, depending on perspective, rises to the need when integrity is replaced by the disingenuous who lead. Is there a standard order of physics to the soul, or is it a bunch of happenstance with no rule to hold as gold? Why do I ramble incessantly, always refining to rhyme? I may never know the answer, but I've rung this bell many times. meaning many a concussion has damaged my brain. So rhythm is a thing, and rhyme is the sweet reward of letting those vibrations ring. All I know is that it's how I think, to look for unique ways to speak, rather to use the same words and letters for a different key of valleys and peaks. So even when it looks similar to all the other keys on the chain, each poem has a different heart to open, so no two are ever the same. Trying to craft a master key is every oracle's holy grail, to help every audience see what is true and without fail. We keep trying and trying and trying, while people are doing other things. That's how organisms thrive, by the diversity each labor brings. I am just a poet. I have my humble role. What others say should be just hobby is more the obsession of my soul. I consider it a sacred goal to share what I behold, if it can spare the human heart from losing hope or turning cold. Will I be successful? Are my efforts vain? Only time will tell if my seed's planted before the rain. Then, when sun appears with all conditions right, somewhere in the future food will grow from what I write. Until then, it's a work of faith, my labor of love with duty at heart, that it behooves a medic whose life's been spared to do my best at doing my part. To heal the haste-born hate, that deceptive devil's bait, to believe what lies create, so God is pleased with our state. The divisions I saw in our streets that only existed in the heart of those who used imagined lines to be why they tear each other apart were all part of the building fuel awaiting the catalyst yet to come to create that nuclear fission to remedy how such awful could be done. That would begin one busy night with 2 calls back to back. The first, a bullet through a woman's chest. The next, a police pursuit cracked a woman's pelvis in half. A woman minding her own business, sitting in the back of a taxi, took the brunt of the impact that pushed the door into her back seat. The wheels were already turning to change the gears in my head after the call I ran just before where my patient fared worst and became dead. How can anyone do this to another human being? Remains the hunger in my rhyme, for which I endure my poverty to give this essential work its time. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I'm sure you've heard that said. How would you measure the tonnage of if war is stopped by what is read? That feat is impossible, a non-poet is quick to quip, but that's why they are not ignited, to let fire be the dance on the lips. That feat is impossible, a non-poet is quick to quip, but that's why they're not ignited, to let fire be the dance on their lips. If we do not have faith, then there is no need we should try, but doubt was once insisted that we could not traverse the sky. Yet here we are with supersonic jets and space stations out in orbit, and on the surface of distant moons and Mars our rovers sit. We can be the pioneers by whom the maps are made, or be content where we've already been and in such trappings be stayed. I've been around the block enough in the proverbial way it's said to read the skies of our times and recognize how people are led. I've been pummeled, kicked, bludgeoned and shot, and had my top front teeth knocked out. With things only getting started, that I'll taste worse, I have no doubt. Do good and don't fear evil. just be aware it lies like a weasel. Anyway, I am Joseph Stegner, poet, former AMR paramedic, survivor of attempted homicide. My body's all beat up. I got dents and valves and titanium coils. My brain's been through the ringer. Anyway, hope you enjoy what you read. I don't imagine you liked what you looked at. But it is what it is. Signing off. Love you all.